Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about the financial sector development and regulation into bracket resolution bill 2019. I talked about how this was an exclusive to Moneylife, and we had a secret note as well, which was a briefing note to the government. Now, I'm going to talk a bit more about this bill because there is a strong suspicion that this bill is going to be introduced in the budget session of Parliament, and the manner in which this government works, it's quite possible that the cabinet will clear it and it will get into the Lok Sabha, who knows, get cleared by it in lightning speed. So we probably need to worry that it's coming again, because this bill is a replacement of the dreaded FDRI bill, which was introduced in 2017 August in the Lok Sabha and withdrawn in 2018 August after it created such fear and panic that people who had deposits in banks were running around wondering whether they need to withdraw them. There were massive losses of public sector banks and nobody knew where the system was going. So the government sensibly withdrew it, and a lot worse happened after that. The collapse of ILFS, which had an outstanding debt of nearly 1 lakh crore, happened in September, just 1 month after it was withdrawn. So what happens if it's going to be introduced in Parliament again? Is the timing right, or is the government set to get it all wrong if it insists on pushing this bill? Consider the situation today. Let's start with Yes Bank. It is the 4th largest private sector bank, and for the last many months it seems to be struggling to deal with the fallout of the dubious banking practices of its founder Rana Kapoor and the people who benefited from it. All of them are scot-free. Bank is shaky and nobody knows whether it's going to survive because it has not succeeded in raising funds. Every few weeks there's talk about money coming in, but the kind of money that's coming in is not up to the mark. Nothing happens. Only recently yet another director resigned, and he went out with a long letter which made all kinds of allegations all over again and demanded a forensic audit. This seems to suggest that despite a lot of work at cleaning it up, despite a former deputy governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Mr. R. Gandhi, being posted there apparently like the eyes and ears of the RBI, things are not all right. And what is happening? We don't know the fate of Yes Bank, but the drumbeat for nationalization, which is nationalize private losses, has already begun. So what did you have? You have foreign brokerage firm called Macquarie, which put out a report in December 2019, even before this latest resignation, which says nationalization looms. Presumably, nationalization would mean by a forced merger with a public sector bank. The report pointed out that 2 other mergers have happened, so this is a pattern. The last one, which we have talked about repeatedly, was Global Trust Bank with Oriental Bank of Commerce. But remember, that was nearly 20 years ago after the Ketan Parekh scam, when this private founder, Ramesh Gelly, got into all kinds of shady transactions with scamster Ketan Parekh, as well as a couple of industrialists, one of them who's in serious trouble again, which is the Z Group. Z Group got away scot-free last time, even though public sector bank, and hence the public, we the people of India, took on the burden of this failed bank. There was another even more disastrous one, which is actually conveniently forgotten, which Macquarie has reminded us about. This is the merger of United Western Bank in 2013 with IDBI Bank. IDBI Bank itself, the less said the better. It's a disaster. It is wobbling. It is under prompt corrective action of the Reserve Bank of India. This merger apparently took a long time. It was proposed in 2006. Obviously, IDBI was unable to digest the merger, and so LIC had to step in spite of a lot of objections. Remember, when LIC was going to come in with a 51% shareholding, the talk initially was that LIC would invest only 9,000 crore. And even this caused outrage. Now, we find that the numbers are astounding, and I think you need to just hear what we have. While this bank is still in trouble, and I'm going to quote nobody else but the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on this. I'm quoting from a report of the Press Trust of India on 22nd December. Here's what she said, quoted by PTI. Earlier this month, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the recapitalization was done by the government by infusing 21,157 crore into IDBI Bank since 2015. After we came back to power, and LIC infused 21,634 crore. Isn't that astounding? So both put together, and I'm continuing to quote the PTI story, so both put together have given 42,781 crore to one bank, IDBI Bank, and it remains in trouble. It remains under prompt corrective action. That is the kind of price that we are paying, the country is paying. And this, she says, has helped reduce the NPAs from a peak of 17% to 5.97% in September 2019. That's neither here or there, because the cost is very, very high and still counting. People expect that now with SR Steel and Bhushan Steel money having come in, maybe IDBI Bank will come out of the mess by the first quarter of this financial year. We're going to wait and watch. We don't know what's happening. The cost is just too high. Now you want the fourth largest private bank to be taken up again. And it's not Macquarie alone that's saying it. On 13 Jan, very well known and highly regarded writer Andy Mukherjee of Bloomberg suggested that State Bank of India should be prevailed upon to swallow the bank. It's a big bank to swallow, even for State Bank of India. Who will pay the price? Well, he knows that the public will pay the price, because he's saying that SBI can always be given some taxpayers' funds to help with the indigestion. Our money, okay? And why is it that we have no answers? We don't know what's going on with Yes Bank. We will just, in principle, I'm not against the fact that we don't require national problem. As an economist, Andy Mukherjee is right in saying there needs to be a solution. But can we endlessly bail out banks with money going to large industrialists without any of that money being gouged back from them, so coming in driblets? They have literally got away scot-free. And how much can the nation keep paying? We have farmers committing suicide, but people, same economists, raise their eyebrows at that. But to contain a financial contagion, we will keep bailing out banks. Remember, State Bank of India is not like LIC. It's a listed entity. So there are shareholders whose interests are going to be affected. And we have this entire farce, apparently, which even journalists don't seem to believe, that there is a rule of law, there is disclosure, that they are on par with other private companies, that they have to have corporate governance. How on earth otherwise can anyone suggest that just force merge yet another bank? Do you want to know how many forced mergers have happened since nationalization? 26. 26 banks have been forced. Maybe some of them were done. In fact, most of them were done before the public sector banks got listed. But if you have listed them, surely a different set of rules has to apply. What is the point in having a sector regulator which pretends that it's monitoring rules and has strict disclosures, independent directors, if in practice none of it works? We are a country which likes to pretend things are working and turn a blind eye to what is not working and say that's all right. So Yes Bank now has put out a statement. Obviously, it's very upset with all the stock, and it has assured shareholders that all's well. Now, whether you believe it or not is another matter. You have to worry about your deposits. You have to worry about the bank as an investor. But here's what people say. Why is it that Yes Bank is not able to find investors, good quality marquee investors? A banker points out that the buck for all this mess stops at the Reserve Bank of India, which is obviously sleeping on the job. And this is something we've said in this video blog repeatedly. The RBI just does not do the job of inspection, supervision, and prompt action. This prompt corrective action, which actually squeezes the bank, is a joke. RBI is anything but prompt in its action, and that's why we have repeated failures. So the banker who I spoke to wants to remain anonymous, thinks that Yes Bank is in a death spiral. He says RBI needs to be hauled over the coals here. In fact, he also says many of us bankers knew the numbers. Yes Bank and Rana Kapoor were reporting were absurd. how is it that the RBI did not know this for so long? He also says that Yes Bank is not able to get new funding because of fears that there are some more skeletons in the cupboard. And this sort of seems to be established by the independent director who just recently last week resigned. Now, the reason why bankers are worried is that whenever they want to extend lines of credit or increase them, which they had reduced in the past, they ask for written confirmation as a part of their due diligence. And when they raise these written questions, the bank is not willing to confirm in writing about asset quality. It's only going to be giving verbal assurances, which are today not acceptable from Yes Bank. This is the same thing that some private equity investors who would otherwise have invested in the bank have also been saying. We also wonder, what is Mr. Gandhi doing from May? He points out that he won't be able to talk, but obviously we need to know what is happening internally, because this state of affairs cannot go on forever. Like I said, the bank says all is well. It's assuring customers that they should be firmly assured that their liquidity and stability is fine, and pay no heed to these unfounded reports by the media and social media. Well, your call. I don't know who to believe, because I think it is the Reserve Bank of India's job to clarify the situation, and it is the RBI that one can believe, and it needs to open its mouth now. Meanwhile, like I said, the RBI is silent, just as it's silent about Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. Now look at the irony over here. We, as activists as well as Moneylife, believe that that bank could be revived. There is a proposal of sorts. It needs to have a good administrator. Nothing is happening. In a strange twist, just a few days ago, 3 days ago in fact, Mr. Sharad Pawar, the Supremo of the Nationalist Congress Party, actually went to Delhi and met the Minister of State Anurag Thakur. I mean, it's such an irony that he got an appointment to meet Mr. Anurag Thakur and came back feeling positive when the entire real estate market says that HDIL, which caused this loss of 6,700 crore, was very close to NCP and its leaders, including Mr. Pawar and Mr. Patel, Praful Patel this is, and its offshoot company, which was part of the same Vadhavan group, which is Diwan Housing, has also been close to the NCP. And NCP is now talking about finding a solution to PMC Bank. What an irony. Let's see what happens. Again, RBI is completely silent. Cost of keeping that bank alive is 1 crore a day. And this is being spent without any thought of what administration is going on, and the business is stalled, which means that the bank is eating up depositors' money. It is in this environment that the government may have to introduce this new bill. Will it dare to take it to Parliament in the budget session, or are we headed for a bigger mess? Now, the bigger problem with this bill is that it pretended that the bail-in provision that caused panic last time has been removed. In fact, it's far from the truth. I'm now going to talk about why this bill itself is a problem. Introducing it at this time is an issue, although we do need a solution to financial sector resolution, but the manner in which it is drafted and it's framed and remains hidden is a big issue. Let's talk about that. So here's what is happening. Under this new bill, which is there's going to be a proposed resolution authority which kicks in when there is a company, a financial sector company or a bank which is in serious trouble. So when action is imminent, the resolution authority steps in. That is when issues like bail-in come in. There are lots of other issues which I've discussed in my previous video blog. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to only talk about bail-in this time. Why am I talking about bail-in? Because in the briefing note which was prepared by the Economic Affairs Secretary, Mr. Atanu Chakravarti, which we have seen, it says that the bail-in, controversial bail-in, has been removed. What exactly is bail-in? Just to refresh your memory, bail-in is when depositors above a certain insured limit are converted into equity and are used as capital for the bank so that it continues, it's recapitalized, it can borrow again and continue to be in business, which means that instead of the bank being bailed out by the government or through sovereign funds. It is bailed in by its own depositors who will not get their money. Instead, that money is converted into equity. Now, this note says that bail-in is gone. Has it really gone? I mean, let's look at what it says. So it says there are three major differences between the old FRDI bill, which was controversial and withdrawn, and the new FSDR bill. It says the much criticized bail-in provision, I'm reading from it, has been removed, and instead the resolution authority would be empowered to cancel or modify liabilities subject to safeguards. The insured deposit liabilities would not be cancelled or modified. What's the big deal about this? All over the world, when bail-in was introduced, it's part of the G7 countries, insured deposits were anyway not going to be touched. Even in India, they're going to increase it from 1 lakh, they say, and it won't be touched. Nothing new about it. It is in fact identical to the last bill. It further says that the resolution authority will be allowed to cancel or modify. Now, what is the meaning of cancel or modify? If you have deposits and the liability of the bank, the contract to pay back your deposits cancelled, then it is a forced conversion. If it is modified and your deposit is converted into equity, then you are in the same position as before. So maybe this is just a smart play of words when they say you will cancel or modify, and the resolution authority will decide that. It is again bail-in through the back door by pretending that it's not. This is what I believe. Let us see the government come up with an explicit clarification about whether we have understood right or not. The second thing it says is simultaneously a decision is made to increase the deposit insurance cover from 1 lakh. This is something everybody has been asking. There are issues with it. What it says here is that the higher amount would be the floor for deposit insurance, which is fine, and the resolution authority will have the power to modify the deposit insurance limit. Here's the mystery. From 1 lakh to what? 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, or as the media speculates, 15 lakhs? The bill says nothing. Okay? It has to be clarified. Why does it have to be clarified? Because it cannot be done on a case-by-case basis. Insurance of any kind is an actuarial science. And this science depends, it's a whole new can of worms, because this science depends on past records, bank failures. There's a whole calculation that goes into it, and then you come up with how much premium has to be charged in order that the resolution authority or the deposit insurance corporation, or in here the new corporation, which is a resolution insurance corporation, will be able to pay up. So it will collect premium based on the assumption that there are going to be only occasional failures. How much it has to pay and how much premium depends on a science and a calculation. It cannot be done after a failure. It cannot be done without specifying the number, and yet there is this note being circulated and ready apparently for introduction without any of this being put in writing. How can this happen? Experts tell us that this cannot work even in the present form. Even if you go to risk-based insurance by cooperative banks, there is going to be a big increase in premium, and we don't know where it's going to come from, whether banks will be able to afford it or will they have to claim it from us, the depositors. We need clarity on this, because you can't go and have a new bill and a new law and deal with problems afterwards when people begin to squeal. The last point it makes is that the resolution of public sector banks will be done in consultation with the government. This also is a problem. Remember, most of these public sector banks are listed entities. They are in the market. There are mutual funds that have invested in them. There are individuals that have invested in them. So if you say that resolution is going to be decided by the government, does it mean that occasionally these banks will be allowed to shut down? I mean, it's the first time that it'll happen that a bank which is owned by the government, 51% owned, not yet privatized, will be closed down. It's an interesting point which raises questions and to an extent a worry, because we have always been telling people, keep your money in a Sarkari bank. It is safe, not because the bank is performing well. In fact, it performs more badly. Much of the bad loans given to the worst corporate houses have come only from PSBs, but there is an implicit sovereign guarantee. I don't know what that last line means. I've read it out as it is. It says resolution of PSBs to be done in consultation with the government. Will the sovereign guarantee continue to hold? I don't know. We need a clarification from the government. Now, who are the people who have discussed this bill? Not us, the depositors. We are the largest stakeholders. We are clueless. Most people that I talk to, people are writing to me saying, where is a copy of the bill available? It's, like I told you, secret. So it's not out there in the public domain. Bank employees, unions are equally clueless. They have been asking us about the bill. They don't know. So who has the government discussed with? Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Department of Agriculture, Cooperation, Farmers Welfare, Department of Expenditure and Revenue, which is all the Finance Ministry's departments, and the National Commission of Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes, and all financial sector regulators, the Competition Commission of India, and the Indian Banks Association. This Indian Banks Association is an unregistered cabal of bankers which constantly increases the charges that we pay. They are in on the discussion, not us, not we the people who are going to pay for it. This is something that you need to note. Now, we are not against a resolution formula like the bankruptcy code for the financial sector. There are good reasons why it's necessary, but the government cannot do this in haste, cannot do what it does every time, come up with a bill which is not discussed, not clarified, causes panic, then you start rolling it back, first by arguing that it will not change, we're going ahead with it. Then when there is sheer panic or people begin to withdraw money, maybe buy golds, keep their cash under the pillows, that's when they will react. For heaven's sake, at least this once, let's do it right. So let's follow at least what SEBI used to do, which is to put the bill out in the public domain, put out more details on issues like resolution, sovereign guarantee, fate of PSBs, then get feedback from the people, incorporate all the right feedback. Believe me, even bank chairmen who have read it will not say it to the government, but they're telling us that this bill is scary. Let's do it right. The country deserves it. Thank you.